Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas and happy Tier 4 to you sad, sad Southerners. If only you'd stayed in and listened to the government's advice, while us in the north can bask in a little bit more freedom. Welcome to Huddersfield Town Social. My name's Marah. Joining me as ever are Cameron Pokey and Kilroy, Kaye, and Statman Nick is back. Hopefully he's got something as good as last time. Even though somebody said you got your stats wrong, you're still right, because we still haven't won a league game when we've gone in at half time. Cup games don't count, you pesky listeners who corrected us, but it was league games is what we said. So still 12 years and counting. What a wonderful Sunday it is for us to be recording as Huddersfield Town beat Watford 2-0 yesterday at the John Smiths. Thanks to the cycling GK's mistake. I'm sure everyone will be watching his YouTube channel tomorrow when he puts that video out, and an own goal as well, as Watford kind of gifted us a win. As well, they've gone into kind of meltdown with the prospect of a 23rd manager in 10 years after Troy Deeney got the latest manager of the boot, apparently, allegedly. Please don't sue Troy. I don't really have any money. It's not in a Christmas spirit. Gents, it was actually quite a comprehensive performance. In total, there was very few moments of madness for Town to deal with, but those that did come our way were dealt with quite well by Ryan Schofield, and a very well-positioned goalkeeper, and he's certainly growing into that number one shirt. But yeah, going into the Christmas period, only 5 points off the top six. It's been a pretty good few months, hasn't it?
Well, gents, life might be falling apart away from the football field, but it's certainly nice to see that there's some semblance of happiness. And when it comes to football itself, I mean, I don't think we could have predicted that we'd actually be in the top half as we approached the week of Christmas. And okay, this was a difficult game, and after the hiding we got at Bournemouth just a week ago, I was quite worried actually about how this one might go, but I know we're on the best run of form at home and coming to about 4 years now, aren't we? And so looking at it, I'm thinking, well, this is going to be a very difficult game. And you know what? I thought we executed it well. Okay, they threatened us in first half, and we got a little bit of slice of good fortune with some of the saves that Schofield pulled off. But at the end of the day, this is against a team who have barely conceded, this season. They sit well within the playoff places. They're going to be expecting to bounce back straight to the Premier League. So they're going to cause us a few issues. And we soak that up, and okay, you get a bit of the rub of the green. And at the other end of the field, we certainly got a bit of the rub of the green. But if you're in the right place at the right time and you're asking those questions, that's what happens. And so it was refreshing, okay, to see that we got a bit of good fortune. But it's refreshing to see as well that we played with a confidence. And if we hadn't been playing with confidence to get into those zones, then we don't get those goals that won us the game in the end. And so, okay, I don't think it's a masterclass when we can look at it and say this is what we're going to do every week, because we're not going to get those strokes of fortune. But looking back on it, and I've got to say, I didn't watch it live. I watched it later in the day. It was a pleasure to. So on the day that Christmas got cancelled and the Grinch came and stole it all and everything like that, I think my old man's favourite football quote isn't that one about, it's not that one about, I think Shankly, isn't it, saying that football is more important than life and death and whatnot, like yada, yada, yada. I want to look at the Arrigo Sacchi one. And he says, of all the unimportant things in life, football is the most important. And so on a day where there's a lot of people probably went to bed quite sad, and I went to bed quite drunk, it was softened. The impact of my hangover this morning, it was certainly softened when I looked back for the second time at the highlights of that game, and I saw Ben Foster's face as he backpedaled into his own net to pick the ball out. And I'm glad that Huddersfield Town are bringing sort of a smile to us coming towards the end of an absolutely torrid year. So 12th place, sitting quite pretty.
I think it's a time for goodwill to all men. Christmas is coming, so I'm going to start with an apology, and I think that's an apology to Phil Hodgkinson. I think we all thought he was barking when he canned the Cowleys. I think that was a pretty unanimous point of view on this podcast and across social media, it seemed. But the appointment of Carlos Corberán is starting to look like a stroke of genius. I think we questioned after Bournemouth whether he would be vindicated for picking the team he did, and I think he's been squarely vindicated. The two results were tidy results. With Coventry, when it wasn't Coventry were never going to be a rollover. I thought we got a tidy result at Cov, and we wasted probably the best chance of the game to win it. And I thought we were brilliant yesterday. I thought we were everything I want to see from a town team. You know, we've debated whether we are now back to our perennial underdog status as a football club, and I think yesterday was everything we've come to expect in recent years from that bunch of underdogs. They were organised, they were resolute. Yeah, you're right, Cam. We had a couple of strokes of luck. We really did. But when we needed a bit of quality, I thought Ryan Schofield was excellent yesterday. He made 3 saves. I mean, the one from Gray in the second half from pretty much point blank was top draw. And I'm sorry if I'm going to nick one of your stats, Nick, but I saw somebody on Twitter today tweet a stat that he played 5 times and kept 4 clean sheets. Well, if that isn't enough of a reason to give the lad a go and can leave him in the net when Hamer's back, I don't really know what it is. But another special mention for me yesterday was Jonathan Hogg. I think a guy that we were lamenting that perhaps his best days were beyond him. In the last 2 games, he's been imperious. I thought he was excellent yesterday. And he's held the midfield together, because I think actually if there's a negative of the last 2 games, Lewis, Bakuna, Eiting, pretty anonymous really. I thought Eiting yesterday was awful. So you know, Hogg pretty much held that midfield together. So yeah, we're going into the end of the year with one more game against Barnsley, which will be a good old Yorkshire derby. But we go into January in good shape, don't we?
Well, lads, I think Carlos and his team have done a phenomenal job this season. If you consider the times we're in, it was a next to no pre-season. Can't have much time between games to do any training. It's literally just recovery phase and then straight back in, preparing for the game. So if you take all that into consideration and look at the change in the style of play, what he's managed to implement already, I mean, it's scary what he could do with better players in the squad, to be honest. I was a bit worried after Coventry, just because second half, we looked knackered. We looked like a team, second half of extra time, just playing out for penalties. We were absolutely shattered, couldn't get a pass off properly. And I thought, the game's still coming thick and fast, still a bit of time to January, and I thought, it's going to be tough, is this? But against Watford, I thought really solid. I mean, Watford, I think they're the second best defence in the league coming into this game. But they'd only scored 4 goals in the last 10 away games, and I could kind of see why. A lot of restricted to a lot of long-range efforts, and I'd never really felt throughout the game that Town were really threatened by them. I thought we were very solid defensively. Took the chances when they came, and yeah, it was lucky, but you met your own luck. And isn't it nice to see us do that to a team for a change rather than the other way around? You know, and Ben's a great closing down of Foster. Foster takes an age to get rid of it, makes a mistake. Campbell taps it in. So really, really good. I pulled out some of the stats from the game, which I found quite interesting. I mean, Watford at 58% of the possession, 21 shots on target, and compared to our 10, 5 on target compared to our 3. They had 7 corners compared to our 5, and their XG was 3.21 compared to ours, which was 0.99, and we won 2-0. So it shows really that stats are irrelevant a lot of the time. It's what you do with the ball, and at the end of the day, we took the chances when they came, and Watford didn't. Schofield, I thought, was very, very good. Some really good saves, particularly one towards the end. One-on-one, made himself big. And I thought, yeah, it was just an overall really good, well-rounded performance. Seemed to be really strong at home. Again, I'll echo what Gareth said. I thought Jonathan Hogg was excellent. I thought Edmonds Green looked solid. Sarr had a good game as well at the back. You never quite know what you're going to get from Naby Sarr, but I thought it was composed, some good passing out from the back. And yeah, really, really pleased that we managed to turn it around. And I think it did justify his selection against Bournemouth. And I mean, I know, Ian, I know you had some issues with it morally, and I can understand where you're coming from. If you look at our squad, though, it's just way for thin, and when you're starting to get injuries left, right, and centre, you've got to kind of start prioritising games. And you know, with the best will in the world, you look at that Bournemouth team. I think even with the first team, we'd have struggled to get anything out of that game. As it happens now, we probably should have won at Coventry. I mean, and Benza either should have scored or squared it to Bakuna. We could have won both of these games. So I think it was justified. And yeah, bring on Barnsley, and hopefully we can get to January and build. Maybe add a couple of loans. I think the loan market will be a lot busier this time. There's a lot of youngsters in Premier League squads not getting game time, and now people are a bit more aware of what's going on. I think there is going to be a bit more activity in January. So hopefully we can build and push forwards.
Nick, I get what you're saying, and I get what everybody else is saying. It only sounds at the moment that it's me speaking out against what happened against Bournemouth. But we might have won 3 in a row if we'd have put a first team out at that point. We can't sit here retrospectively, look at it and say, oh, we'd have definitely lost it, one of the 2 games between Coventry and Watford yesterday had we not rested players against Bournemouth. I still don't like it. I understand why we've done it. And it is great that we're now sat here with 4 points. Most of us thought we'd get 3 points against Coventry maybe midweek and then a point maybe at Watford at home yesterday. But look, Cam's been out celebrating a victory. He's hungover today. Gaz is now apologising to Phil because he reckons, he's saying it on behalf of all of us that we got it wrong, but Gaz is basically saying he's got it wrong. Greg's opened pretty happily for possibly the first time in 20 episodes nearly now. I'm not going that far. I am not going to go as far as everybody else seems to be going. I thought we were good to a point. We were professional. The game fell in our favour in that we still don't look like scoring too much from open play, or we didn't yesterday in the system we had, but we didn't have to either. Watford they gifted us 2 goals. They have gifted us 2 goals. And Fraser Campbell, sponsored by AKLD Training, Andy Kaye, was there to put the first one in, and the second one's possibly the worst own goal anyone will ever see in the history of football. That is a horrendous swipe at the ball by somebody who's pretty decent on FIFA as an Ultimate Team player. You don't expect that from Kaye. Anyway, it was a game that kind of fell into our laps a little bit. And the most impressive part of it was, well, first off, Schofield, fantastic. He's brilliant. And now his saves, to me, guys, it wasn't as electric. He made one late on, and it's flashed across him, and he's made a reaction save from a volley 6 yard out. And it's close to him. Really, the striker should have put that in. That should. I think it was Gray. He should have been put away. That wasn't one he should have been able to save, but he was there to save it. Great positioning. Most of the other saves were reaction saves right close to his body. His positioning was good. And now that's fantastic as a keeper. Ben Hamer is also very good at those things. He doesn't have to think about if the ball just comes at him. His reactions are as good as anyone. The most impressive thing I see with Schofield, we've got a goalkeeper far more with a resume that most people are pretty impressed with Foster. But we've got Schofield, when he gets the ball at his feet, he looks like the guy that's been playing for 20 years. He doesn't look like the near debutant that's only had a few games in a town shirt. He looks so composed when he has the ball at his feet. And now both teams yesterday played possessional, passing out from the back game of football. And for the first time this season, we've had a team that's outdone us in being shy passing out from the back. The mistakes they made yesterday were very similar to the mistakes we were making at the beginning of this season. And we were crying out saying, we can't carry on playing this way. Okay, we might score 1 or 2, but we're conceding 4, 5 and 6 at the back because of us not being able to pass it out properly. With Schofield, for some reason, that has dissipated. It isn't there anymore. We look like we can play the ball out really well from the back. And that's the most impressive thing for me, and why I reckon he should be in as number 1 for the rest of the season, because you notice keepers making mistakes more often than them doing something amazing. And when Foster's making more mistakes at the back than the guy with so few appearances as Schofield, then there's definitely something in Schofield for our system. He was great. Johnny Hogg, fantastic. He is unbelievable. And I genuinely put it down to Bakuna not being in the midfield 3 with him. When he's in there, he's a bit vacant. We've spoke about this before, but now he's up and out wide a little bit on the left while Karoma's injured. And Bakuna can do what he wants to do out there. It's a bit of a free roll when you're up in the front 3. Not entirely a free roll in our system. I get that. You've got to close people down a bit more. But Bakuna's up that way. And it just allows Hoggy to sit in there with Eiting and Lewis O'Brien. And all Hoggy has to do is defend, just clean up. The system has been tweaked a little bit by Carlos. It has. It's not as gung-ho as it was at the beginning of the season. It really isn't. Coventry was a perfect example of that. We knew it was going to be a tough game against a team in form. And what we did is we sat deep, we stayed structured. And even when things weren't necessarily going in our way, we didn't overcommit and gamble trying to get the win. We didn't. We sat there for a point, and we've not done that too often this season. It was fantastic on midweek for me, not the performance, but the grit, the determination, the changing Carlos's approach that we were worried about prior to the last couple of games. It was brilliant. And then yesterday, a game's fallen into our lap, and we've put a professional performance in after going 2-0 up, where the stats show we've been battered on paper on paper, that anyone watching that game is we kept them out wide, we kept them 20, 25 yards outside the box, and we made the chances that they could create not even half chances. They were a quarter chance. They were barely a sixth of a chance. They were long shots. They were always going over the bar more often than not, and it just wasn't there. I'm thankful they didn't bring Troy Deeney on, because we know I understand why Watford have made such a quick move to boot the manager after yesterday, because they made some decisions that baffled me. When it was so easy for our defenders, and it was easy. We know Naby Sarr can be fantastic or terrible. Yesterday he had a fantastic game because it was a bit easy. They definitely weren't challenging, and they've got someone like Troy Deeney there on the bench, and they didn't even bring him on. They didn't even try and shake things up. It was a team that I think we faced at the right point of the season. They're very much on the down, and we're very much on the up. And to be mid-table at Christmas, to be in the top half, technically, we'll throw that one in. To be top half at Christmas, with all the injuries that we forecasted to get, yet the results have been far better than anyone could have expected, considering the injuries that we've had, is phenomenal. I'm not going to apologise, though. I am not going that far just yet. I'll have to wait until May before you get a full apology out with me.
I agree. I think jury is still out on that one. But I've got to say one thing, and that I as well as many have been quite critical at times this year. But I will say this: that I really, really worried, and I was very vocal after that West Brom game back in, what was it, July, the season finished, about the getting rid of the Cowleys and how that was going to affect us, and I thought it was a real flash in the pan moment. Well, it looks to have paid off, so I'll say that bringing in Carlos to this early point, has worked very well, and it's interesting to see that from what he's done, from what he's been given, I think he's crafted something quite strong. However, you can't judge after 5 months, so the jury is still out on that one. But I think the signs are good. But a lot of interesting points raised there, actually. One being Ryan Schofield. Schofield, I really enjoy watching him. I think I always like as well that a young lad coming through. It's just a nice story, isn't it? You always want that, and it reminds me of having Alex Smithers back in there. Nothing against Hammers. I think he's carried us at moments this season, and it's a shame with goalkeepers, because it really does take probably an injury, sometimes a suspension, but not only an injury, to give another goalkeeper a chance. And I'm glad that Schofield's had a chance to get himself into the team. 4 clean sheets from 5. You can't argue with that, can you? I do think perhaps he shows, moments of inexperience. I was commentating on the Coventry game, and I remember the most alarming moments early on, of course, was when he's dropped the ball back. I think was it by Naby Sarr, and he dithers on it quite long before actually managing to take it away from the defender and playing out from the back quite well. So I think maybe there are these moments that will be ironed out when he gets more experience. But then in that, I think that shows his composure as well. He doesn't flap. He doesn't look like a junior that we just rushed into the side. And so, I think we do have to have a serious conversation about whether he stays or whether he goes back to the bench. And I think he's staked a very, very good claim to it. So for me, picking on form, I think he has to stay in, to be honest. I think he has to stay in. So good luck to him. It's been really encouraging to see. The reason I'm not going to get too enthused about performance yesterday, though, I think it was great. I think it was lucky. Is that the amount of times we had to, I hate when people say that, the number of times that we had to call on Ryan Schofield to just stop those half chances or quarter chances, as Ian called it, still shows a little bit of vulnerability to me. I don't think we completely dominated the game. I'm not expecting us to against a team like Watford, frankly, who are a Premier League team and Championship guys. That still shows that, it was very close, and Nick wheeled out the stats early doors. Exactly, it was a closer game than the 2-0 suggests on paper. And the most important stat went in our favour, and convincingly so. But there's certainly work still to be done. But there are frailties there that kind of get exposed. And there's a few long range efforts as well that we're contended with, and they've got men that can hit him in the middle of the park and stuff. And you've got the likes of Tom Cleverley there running your engine. On a different day, that's a very different story. So we did get fortunate. But also, there were very good signs there. I'm trying not to get carried away. But no, I look at Schofield and I see someone and I think, right, this is someone now who, going forward, I think he does have to have a chance to grow. He's certainly shown that he is at home in that team. And I think, fair play to a lad who got called up overnight, thrown himself straight in. It was a sink or swim moment. Alex Smithers, his debut 4-0 at Leeds, wasn't it? This lad, he's actually had a very fine start to his first real season in Huddersfield Town football. So fair play to him. I think for my case is that he does have to stay. But it's easy to look at the league table and think that it's all fine and dandy. We're in the top half by a goal, not even goal difference, by 1 goal scored. But hey, I would have taken that.
Is it a case though, and this is a wider case when we're focusing on the development of Ryan Schofield, are Huddersfield Town building a team for now or next season and the season after? Because you've got Ben Hamer who's out of contract, you've got a number of players, senior players out of contract in the summer, most notably Isaac Mbenza, who's been in terrific form, Adama Diakabi. Do you get rid of them? Do you build a squad for next season or the season after, or do you look at the position that Huddersfield Town are in currently, right here, right now, and think, actually, we'll solidify a little bit more. We've got a 25-1 chance of slipping into the playoffs. I mean, Middlesbrough right now occupy that last playoff spot. They've been dreadful this season. It kind of shows you where certain teams are because of the COVIDness of the season. It's a tough gig to ask what Carlos wants to do with the squad we have now. We'll get on to transfers later, but with the squad we have now, do you keep bloodying a couple of these youngsters, or do you go back to your experienced pair of hands, so to speak?
Well, I think it's hard to separate saying the squad for now and then transfers for later, really, because I think you can't have one without the other. I think we all know, and we've all said for the last 3 or 4 months, we've said in the last transfer window, we need to strengthen. We don't have enough bodies. We have some quality, but we don't have the quantity. So I think whatever happens, players are going to have to come in. And okay, we've seen the new Grant come in the door this week, encouraging. I don't know anything about him. I'm not really great on my League of Ireland football. But looking, okay, to answer the first half of the question, looking at the lads we've already got, I think some of them, if they can continue as they've earned themselves, certainly an extension or a new contract. Isaac Mbenza, he's been a pleasure to watch this season, and there's never been a player found that I've wanted to play well so badly. And so, he was getting close to the free kick again. He got himself in there, made a nuisance of himself going forward, and then Harry and Ben Foster. So lads like him, I want to see him. I want to see him carrying on in a Huddersfield Town shirt. They're still quite young. They've got a lot of years ahead of them. And so some of them, I do believe. But then that's not going to answer all the cases. You look at someone like Ben Hamer, and we've gone through a lot of goalkeepers in recent years. Do you offer him a contract? I just don't know. It's difficult because how much wholesale change do you want to make to an outfit that finally seems to be going forward? It's been a while since we've been able to say that. That's the thing. I don't want to stick my head above the parapet now and be the one to say, right, we have to weed out the deadwood, because I think that's disrespectful to a squad that's done really well considering the circumstances. So the question is, okay, you look at players whose deals are coming to the end, and you think, well, it's an impossible question, isn't it? It's a possible question because a lot can happen between now and the end of the season. Form can run dry. I'm preferring to look at the transfer market and thinking, okay, what do we do in there, really? And I think, to be honest, we shouldn't be getting rid of too many at this point because we haven't got enough in. And so for me, I'm sort of going into the mindset that we do try and hang on, and it's such a difficult question. This might not seem like a big deal, but going forward now, I'm seeing that we're starting to get a run together. I don't want us to ruin it. And so if we look to blood the youngsters, and that is important because we're going to need them to be part of the first team squad coming forward. And it was great to see another 17-year-old on the bench again. We all got very enthused about Brahima Diarra and his performance in the Youth Cup against Newcastle. So this is like that. But there's so much good coming through. But then again, you do throw Dehaney in more and more and more when he's clearly not the first choice. These lads need experience, and whether they get experience away from Huddersfield Town, that would be preferential to me because we're going to need them next season. We're not going to bring in 10, 15 new bodies, are we? The lads going out, well, okay, some of them, I think we're going to have to cherry pick the ones who deserved an extension. But no, we've got to find a balance here, really find balance between, okay, bring these lads on, but then not compromising where we're going, because we are 5 points off the playoffs at the moment, and that might sound daft if come January 20th we're now 12 points off it. But at this moment in time, we can't pass up that opportunity. It's a turning point in the season, and you have to go for it. And so for me, blooding youth has to be on the back burner for now in case they can really cut it, which we've seen in the case of Schofield. Though.
You've always got to have that blend, and we spoke about this before, that having youngsters in your team really is essential for a club like Town, but you can only have so many. And I think Schofield and Romani Edmonds Green look ready. So when they've been chucked in, they look ready to play Championship football. I think that's the challenge for some of the other youngsters, that when they've been chucked in, they don't look ready to play Championship football. You know, Dehaney's one that's done okay. You've got Rowe, you've got, Jackson that played in the first game. He played 45 minutes in the first game. We haven't seen him since. So there's no doubt there's some quality around. And, Schofield was, I'm trying to remember what year it was, but he played in the Under-18 World Cup or the Tulloon Cup, didn't he? And they won that, and he saved penalties. He was playing with peers like David Brooks, and I think Harvey Barnes scored a load of goals, didn't he, in that tournament? So, this lad's played some football at a decent level with some decent peers, and that shows probably in his confidence. I think, for me, I'd leave him in. I think you do plan for the season after. Romani's got his chance because of injuries and taking it, as has Ryan. And I think if I were in Ryan's shoes and they wheel Ben Hamer back out just because he's played more games than me, I'd be pretty cheesed off, I think. But it's a real difficult one because, like you, Cam, I looked at it and thought, well, we're 5 points off the playoffs. Do we go for it? But actually, I just think it's I just can't see us having enough in the tank to get us into the top six, unless we added 4 or 5 real quality individuals. And I don't think we're going to see that. We definitely need some loans. We need some bodies. We know that, because we can't rely on a team with 5 and 6 kids in. So we've got to get some senior players in, some people with experience. And, you only need to look at the loan we've taken from Liverpool with the goalkeeper to show if you get Premier League kid loans wrong, it's a waste of money. So, I don't really want them chasing kids from Man City. I'd rather we blooded what we've got, or even sign more guys like this Grant from Ireland than borrowing somebody from Man City who's never kicked a ball in the Football League. We need some experience. We need some guys with 250, 300 games on the back who can come in and just steady the ship. Because, as I said last week, Carlos will get us enough points to stay up. I'm not worried about getting relegated. And I guess I'm not really answering your question, Greg, about whether we should be thinking about now or next season. But we've got to try and build, and you can only do that through winning, because winning's an habit, and you can only win when you've got a team that's set up in the right way and has the right attributes.
I don't think we're ready to go up, even if by some miracle we made it to the playoffs and went up. I think they'd have a heart attack, owners, if we went up this season. I think we're not quite ready for it yet. I think this season is a bit of a stopgap to next season. As boring as it sounds, I think it's a season of transition and consolidation. And I think if we finish mid-table, I think that's done a sensational job, to be quite honest. I think if we can bring some of these youngsters on, it's steadied the ship now. We're starting to play much better attacking football, much more enjoyable football. Bringing these youngsters on, and then if we can get into the summer transfer window, that's going to be the big one. That's going to be massive, with a lot of players out of contract, including Hogg and Benz, as you said. I think, if possible, I'll be looking to try and get rid of Pritchard and Diakabe in January. If we've got a couple of players we can bring in, because I just don't see any future with them at Town. There's players we've seen with Pritchard before. There's a player there, he's played really well for Brentford, did decent at Norwich, but for whatever reason is just, and he looks to be working hard. I don't really want to have a go too much, because I don't know if it's a mental thing with Pritchard. If he's just really, it seems like he's trying to think about everything before he does it instead of just doing it. And he always seems to take an extra touch, just that few seconds too long before he does anything, and gets the ball taken off him, goes to ground a lot and loses it, gives fouls away. Diakabe, I mean, I always liken him to a Dementor. When I see Diakabe, do you know Dementors off Harry Potter, when suddenly one walks in and the room just goes dark and any sort of ray of happiness and optimism just drains from your soul? That's what Diakabe does to me every time I see him come on, because it's just not, it's like playing with 10 men, and he's not going to do anything. And it's nothing personal against him at all, and I'm sure there was a footballer there, but young lad moving abroad, and for whatever reason, sometimes it just don't work out. And I think it's best. He'll probably go somewhere in France and probably bang in 20 goals somewhere and be amazing. But I just don't see a future with him at Town. And if we can get rid of him in January, I think that'd be great if we can get somebody in. But I think just see the season out. You never know what might happen. It is a poor league this time. Everyone's beating everybody. You win 3 games, suddenly you're right up there. See what happens. But I think if we finish mid-table and then we've got a massive summer ahead, but at least Carlos has got a full pre-season. Try and keep the players like you and Benzers, obviously Hogg, try and develop a few of these youngsters a bit more. I'm glad we're seeing the likes of Danny Grant coming in. He looks promising. He's similar to Grant really in style. He played on the right a lot for Bohemians, but he prefers on the left, cutting in on his right foot, sort of Grant-esque, Karoma-esque style. So I think he's a good project for the future, and it's good we're getting these good, promising players, project players, but we need a couple of players that can do it now. So if we can get a couple, like Gareth said in January, just to steady the ship, just to account for any more injuries if we get them, and just see it through to the summer and then build from there.
It's a bit of a kind of what should Huddersfield Town do versus what will Huddersfield Town do, and the should part of it is a personal opinion. Now, this year's championship is one of the weakest, I think, in history in regards to different, like the results are very unpredictable. Like nobody would have expected to have us as high as we are. And I don't just think it's because of Carlos. It is, of course, the wins that we're getting, but I think the static nature of the transfer window over the last over summer was meant that teams didn't change so much. We did, and we're taking full advantage of it. Now, I sit here and I look at the league and I think it's there for the taking, but that's a gamble. I think if you do throw some money at it in January, as it is, we need 2 or 3 players to help with the depth anyway, right? That's before anybody goes out. Then again, if Dinal was here, would he sit on what we've got, or would we have twisted? Would we have brought a few players in to help push ourselves up the table? Because we are in touching distance of the playoffs yet again. And now we've been there once before. If we hadn't been there before, we'd all be talking about this very differently, because we'd be dreaming about something we'd never seen. We play a chaos style of football that is bringing results, is exciting to watch, and is causing teams like Watford big problems. And this is with a squad that, not the Cowboys, but Jan Seiwert couldn't get a tune out of whatsoever. Carlos is doing with a squad that's terrible on paper up until now. That is phenomenal, right? So you can sit here, guys, you can say, yeah, but we just want to build for next year. David Wagner nearly went to Aston Villa the year after joining us. Before we got to the Premier League, he was offered the job and turned it down. What's to say Carlos won't be given the same opportunity somewhere else? We can sit here all night long, or morning long for you guys, preparing for next season. But our performances at the moment, for me, are on Carlos Corberán alone. On him alone. Football is ever changing. It's like liquid, isn't it? Things never stay the same too long. So you cannot play and plan entirely so far ahead anymore. You just can't do it. Not when an opportunity has arisen like it is doing at the moment, in that we're so close to the playoffs. And we do have such a lack of players. We need to bring players in if we expect or want to push on somewhat. That's what I want. That's what I think we should do. But what I do think will happen is I think we'll cut our cloth. Isn't that the phrase that we like to use? In that we've got so many players out of contract in the summer, and Benza has now appreciated from a value of nothing last season to maybe $1 million, maybe $2 million this January. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go whatsoever. I think we have to get rid and get as much money back in as we can, because parachute payments won't last forever. So there is an issue with cash flow. We know that's certain people's favourite words, but I think we'll be cutting. I think we'll be cutting further. I think we'll ride out what we've got. I think we'll finish comfortably lower half, and we'll all look back at it, unfortunately, as a missed opportunity, because where we're at the moment is exciting, and we're not that far off being great. Grant could be fantastic, and with our new BT model, absolutely the perfect kind of signing for that. But we should be bringing in 4 and 5 signings like him, six figures, 250k maybe. You want to bring in 4 or 5 of them every transfer window to pad out the B team. Some will miss, some you'll hit, and you hope the ones you hit, hopefully the strikers, are worth far more than any other position. But that's what you want to do. That's what the B team model is. You buy players from teams that are doing well in lower leagues, in leagues that aren't as prestigious or as high quality as the Championship and League One in England generally. So you look at the Irish leagues, you look at maybe even the SPL for poor league quality. But you're looking at players like that to bring in for B teams. That's what you're after. So Grant was absolutely the perfect signing for that. And you know what? He might come in and he might score 10 goals between now and the end of the season. But I don't think any of us are expecting that. And I don't think Town are. He, to me, is a signing for the B team. Great. Not a problem. Bring him in. Bring in more. Fill that up. Our first team, if you expect to push on from where we're at, if you expect to stay steady from where we're at, because we've spoken before about teams like Derby and Sheffield Wednesday strengthening in January now. COVID is taking a more predictable path, hopefully, through the summer, and that a few fans are returning. Maybe not now with the new lockdown. I get that. But hopefully we'll ride this out pretty quick, and then February, March will open up and fans will be back in. And then from next August, vaccine, great. Everybody's in. Cash flows are predictable again. They'll strengthen. So we have to strengthen. We know that. We need 3-4 first-team players. Will we get them? I don't think so. I think players will go that are out of contract, and people like Rolando Aarons, will be brought in to fill the gap, and that'll be fine. We'll stay up, no problem. But then does Carlos stay? He's done a wonderful job, and we're fooling ourselves if we think we are the only ones noticing this.
I think there's a massive amount of sense in that, in the given, the comparisons to be made between Wagner and Corberan. And I like that we've waited until December really to go to town on that. But this does have a lot of similarities. You can't lie. And he's come in on a paper thin squad. And he's got the best out of it. We are the better than the sum of our parts, as we were when we went up under Wagner 3 or 4 years ago. So, exactly. We can't afford to pass up this chance, and that's why I look at it and I worry, and I think if we were a few points further back and look and think, it'd be nice to see the youth coming through again and everything like that. And in reality, we have exactly Reg and Schofield who look like they can cut it and can slot into that mould. But we don't want to look back at this and think, what could have been? And it might come to nothing. We might finish a very respectable 10th, we'll be out of contention with 4 or 5 games to go. And if that happened, I think, we're still overachieved. But we can't look at this league table now at Christmas, be 5 points off the playoffs, and not think at least we have to have a go. And this is going back to David Hartwick's question that he's posed in the comments of our latest tweet, and saying, do we keep how was it phrased? Yeah, do we keep our pound of dry knowing value is low, no value in January, as we're often told, and wait for summer to recruit, or do we fill out the squad immediately? Well, this is exactly the point. I think we do have to go for it. I do think we have to try and make something of this, because look at it and I think it's 2 games in every 3 that we're playing well, really, isn't it? And then there'll be one maybe that will throw a wobbler in there. If we can get that consistency, and with consistency, that means we have to be able to rotate effectively from a first 11 to a first 11, and not say put a weakened side out every 3rd game. And the only way we're going to do that is by bringing bodies in, and I think we have to do it in January. So unfortunately, we're in a position where we have to gamble again. But I do think we have to take that. I think you're absolutely right. Who's to say that we're going to be here to be able to build forward? We look to long-term plans and we look and think, Carlos, next season, he'll be able to take us forward. We said that about the Cowleys and they left, and that was our doing. But who's to say that Corberan ain't going to be leaving at the end of the season, and that won't be our doing? So, we've got half a chance now, because, I don't want to get ahead of myself, and this might sound like, my suspiciously high level of alcohol talk, maybe it is, but I'm looking at it and thinking, right, we need to go forward here, and we do need to be aware of the look we've had in bringing this man in. And so, no, it will be foolish to pass this opportunity up. And for me, I'd like to look bringing in them as a striker. I think that defensively, we've really struggled with injuries. I know we may have Elphick back, but is he going to be the same player? I really hope so. But he's not taken to a pitch in 18 months. So we can't rely on that. We need more fullbacks, because we've got 2 who are on their best day, easily the best in this league. But we need more than that, because as soon as one is injured, or as soon as we change shape, we find ourselves lacking there, and that takes out our best game plan. So we do. I'd like to see a fullback. I'd like to see a central defender. I would like to see another striker to add to the 5 or 6 or 7 that Phil says we had now. You know what I mean? And so, maybe the low market, if you throw a few darts, one's going to hit a treble. Who knows? But we have to take this gamble for me. I think Ian has said a lot of sense there. It would be wrong to not take stock of our surroundings now. I think we've got to at least make a bit of a fist of it in the back half of the season. So in my response to David's question is, I do want to see us strengthen now. And I think, we're not going to get the best value for it. But football isn't strictly a business. You do have to go for the romantic elements of it. And I do want to see us throw it all into the second half of the season, because at the end of the day, that's what we watch football for. We want a bit of a distraction. And what's more exciting than Town trying to bear down against all odds on the top 6, which, we're probably not going to get. But do we want to look back on it and think, in the shittest year ever, we had an outside chance, and we thought, wait for next year.
I just can't see it though, Cam. I just can't see. you know, that everything, all the mood music that's been coming from the club all season has been around controlling costs, keeping cash in the bank. I think what possibly could spike movement, which is a good point you guys have made, is some outbound. So, you know, if you can get Pritchard off the books with his wages, you get Diakabi off the books with his wages, suddenly it opens up some other possibilities in terms of the wage bill. You know, we said this before. We don't know what Carlos asked for or was promised when he came. You know, Bielsa style is not to have a squad with 40 people in it, is that either? So, as a disciple of Bielsa, you know, is he the same? Does he want to work with a small, compact squad of 22, 24 that he knows and absolutely trusts? So, you know, chucking another 10 bodies in, maybe that's not what Carlos wants. You know, maybe we're assuming here this is all Phil. Maybe it's Carlos that feels that's not what he needs. But I just can't see it unless they make some big headroom in terms of wages. I just can't see there being the 5, 6, or 7 we'd probably need to give us the chance of the playoffs. But you're right, when you look at the teams between us and the playoffs, there's no great shakes. The top 5's Norwich, Bournemouth, Swansea, Brentford, Watford. If you were going to have a sweepstake of the top 6, you'd have probably put them 5 names in there anyway, wouldn't you? So the rest of the league aren't far off playing for 6th place. You know that, and would you therefore gamble the next 3 years paying big wages to half a dozen players on the basis of an outside chance of it in the playoffs this year? I just can't see it. I just can't see it.
Isn't there an argument though to be pragmatic in this situation and pragmatically invest? Because I don't want to bring our favourite phrase up, but the transfer committee. You know, surely if they're doing their jobs properly, and you would assume so, given the signing of Danny Grant, there will be a couple more players that they've targeted in there that can come in and do a job straight off the bat. Then you've also got Premier League loans, and we've mentioned Camille Grabara, who seems to be an absolute nut job. But let's not forget his halftime interview with. Oh God, that was awful. Don't want to reminisce on that, but you know, before that, we've had a pretty good success rate with that. And the issue with Premier League loans is, especially these days, I think Neil Warnock was talking about it with Cardiff when they had Grujic from Liverpool, that they're paying effectively a transfer fee to have him on loan. If it's that kind of Premier League loan, I don't think we can do it. But there will be opportunities for players who are at top 6 academies, if we can get and just say we'll pay the wages or something similar to bring them in. Because if you get 1 or 2 of them, and we don't have any of them at the minute, the one that we were apparently looking after was on the opposition side yesterday, James Garner. He looked okay, you know. I don't think he'd have taken us by storm. But if there are them kind of players, and I'm including Karel Eiting in this, that you can bring in 2 or 3 with maybe 1 or 2. You know, I'm trying to think of last time we've done really good January deals. It probably would have been Pilkington. That's in 2009. Jesus Christ. But those kind of style signings, somebody, if you look at the couple of leagues below, I mean, they're and I hate to take advantage of clubs that are going to be in financial messes, but there'll be clubs in league below who've got very good players, and they'll be very, very much struggling at the minute. We do have an opportunity to, and I don't expect us to get top 6. I don't expect us to get top 10 from where we are, but it's a good opportunity to have a crack at it pragmatically, but also build on in the future. And I think that's what we need to do. We need 2 or 3 proper first teamers, maybe 1 or 2 more like Grant, and 1 or 2 loans. And I wouldn't say we need 5 or 6 signings this January. Never gone into a January thinking that. It's usually 2 or 3, but because of the lack of the inactivity in the summer and the lack of turnover, and you're looking at our squad and you're thinking, them youngsters, like I said, was it Osterfield has gone on loan to some really low club? You know, he was in the first team squad for games. He's nowhere near championship level. You know, those kind of youngsters, they might be in 2-3 years' time when they get some work experience, as they call it these days, under the belts. And it certainly helped with Edmonds Green and Critchlow Noble. Get them lads out on loan, but like, you know, Reg, Schofield, Daly are probably the 3 that can crack it. The rest of them are great for experience, but I want to see 4, 5, 6 players come in with 1 or 2 leaving. And I fully expect 1 or 2 of them big players to leave. So we've got a squad that can give us a bit of relief during this new winter of discontent. And, when we go into spring, we're like, well, do you know what? We haven't been to any games, but you know what? I've actually quite enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to going back into the stadium, whether it be August or 2022 or whenever the vaccine mutates into the new common cold. Nick will tell you all about that. He's a scientist. I think we just need a little bit of hope. And I know it sounds really stupid, but sometimes sport can be, as Cam with his quotation says, sport's a relief for some people. Sport's a getaway. And I don't think people really quite realise how much Huddersfield Town can be a getaway. We're not asking for a lot, really. I don't think we are. We're not asking for big name signings. What did Stan Ternant call them? I can't remember. Bums on seat signings or something like that back in the day. We're not asking for that. We're asking for a little bit of flair, a little bit of something different, a little bit of something we can get behind. And if we're going to give Phil any credit for that, he's certainly given a lot of people something that we can get behind, and it would be a shame to lose him.
I think I massively agree. This is the time, if ever, that we've been looking to our football team, and this is something I said, and this is something I actually need to plug as well that I've left up until now. But coming out in the week that when we release this, coming out was the special episode released by the Huddersfield Town Supporters Association. I put in a cameo appearance with Matt Shaw from the other podcast. And Stephen Chicken of the Examiner and Utabia. We talk about 2020, the terrible year it's been, and the good year it's been on the pitch at certain times. It's a quick chat about the state of the club, what we've liked, the best highlights, what we think of Carlos. There's a bit of a quiz at the end as well with a special guest who comes on to present it. So I understand that donations are going to be going to the Huddersfield Town Supporters Association, all the great work they do in the community. I believe, I'm not sure what the fee will be off the top of my head, but there's a small donation to get access to the recording. It is a video, but you can listen to the audio as well. We'll put it out on our channel. HTSA will put it out on Twitter as well. And so keep your eyes up for it, because I make a short cameo. I do disgrace myself in the quiz because I forget about the existence of Terence Congolo. But no, it's well worth it as well. There's also ways you can donate during it and everything. But keep your eyes peeled for that, because by the time this is live, that should be live as well. But there is relevance to that. I said on the podcast that on the Super Pod, as it's been labelled, that football is a massive distraction, and this year more than any is the year that people look to their football club for a sense of community, given that we haven't really had a community this year. And I'll second that praise of Phil. He's given something that has allowed us to all gel as a fan base again. And I think it's so much nicer going onto Twitter after a game now, because there's so much less vitriol. And my biggest gripe in the off-season break was that I feel we've lost this community spirit that was something we really prided ourselves on. Especially under Wagner, and it's gone away since then. I can feel that steadily coming back now as people are starting to circle around the club and gravitate towards it once again. And so I want to see a positive window, because I don't want to build. I think I've spent, since the last transfer window and the disappointment of it, I've spent the last 4 months or so building up my sentiment towards this club again. And so if we got disappointed by nobody through the door, and crowing on about Rolando Aarons, I think I'll be very, very disappointed. So I'm just after a positive window that gives us something to focus on and just to look forward to. Because look, I don't think we'll get top 6, if I'm honest, if I'm thinking pragmatically. But then how lovely would it be to have a push for that? I don't think it'll happen. I don't think we'll bring in 5-6 bodies. I think that is the number that are needed. But I really hope now that it's going to give a lift to so many people if we can go forward and do that. So I'm all for it. I think this is a really decisive, possibly the most decisive January window we've had in a few years. Okay, you could say maybe it was on a par with the last one in the Premier League, which we got wrong. But if we can get this one right, this sets about the end of the season. And I really hope, for everyone's sake, that we can just give ourselves something to focus on coming into 2021.
You want ambition, don't you? You want ambition, passion, so we can all get excited, particularly in these times. And look, I mean, lads, I would love Town to go out and sign for good quality first team players with some project players and really have a push. I would absolutely love that. My opinion's born out of the messages that's been coming out of the club And I get a sense from that the club are happy for us to be where we are this season. I will be very surprised if we sign more than 2-3 players this window, probably 2. I mean, it's looking like Aaron's might be one of them. What he'll bring, I don't know. I don't know much about him, if I'm being honest. His goal record isn't great. But to me, we're a striker, left forward, attacking midfielder and fullback cover away from pushing that top 6. And I know it's hard to sort of equate number of players to position, and there's so many variables. It doesn't work like that, obviously. But I just think, particularly, I mean, there's been a lot of issues with defence, but I still think, if we can add a bit more cutting edge to the attack, so we can create a few more chances, finish teams off when we do it the front foot. I think, there's been a lot of games where there's been fine margins, like the Birmingham game, for example. We got back level. We could have had, that cutting edge just to go and win it, and we end up losing. Preston, when we were winning, end up losing. And if we'd have won those 2 games, we'd be knocking on door the top 6, and that's how close it can be. But I just can't see it. I mean, I'm not expecting a marquee sign. I mean, I can't remember Town ever making a marquee signing, to be honest. So you sign it and you think, whoa, God, Town's, how they managed to get him? I can't remember ever thinking that, supporting Town. In my 32 years of been on this earth. So I certainly don't expect it now, but it would be great to see, some players with some proven experience coming through the door just to help some of these youngsters along. Will we see it? I have my doubts, lads. I think that the big window is going to be close season. I completely agree with you. I would love to see the ambition and to give us all that lift again. We've got to be careful. Watford don't come sniffing around Carlos as well, by the looks of it. He's just the sort of manager that Watford would like to have. So we do have to make sure that we do back Carlos. I mean, he has said before that he's happy, with the squad size, but I can't believe that. I can't. And that's Nadja's girthier than our squad size. It's tiny. There's no, we've got good kids, but you can't rely on them. You can't rely on them for a full season, and we're going to get injuries. If we get injured to Fraser Campbell, who's playing there? Who have we got? Carlos has been criticised for not making substitutions early enough in games, but you look at the bench and you think, well, who's coming on? Who's coming on to change game? We've got that first 11, and then you look at the bench, you think, oh God, the quality, the lack of quality in backup is staggering, and that definitely needs to be addressed. And I just hope that they do. I hope that they back him. If not in January, then in the summer, and we can have a real push and give the fans something to cheer about and get us all excited again and get us all together behind them.
I don't think we're as far away as some of you guys reckon. Honestly, I reckon a striker and a winger. That's all I think we need. Because Toffolo and Pippa seem pretty resilient when it comes to injuries. I know Pippa's missed a couple of games there, but Toffolo's on what? 480,000 minutes or something without missing a start. He's a machine, that guy. I don't know how he does it, because he doesn't look like he's heavily built either. He looks pretty frail, but he's just he's the old school English player, isn't he? He's the guy that's there every Saturday. He turns up, probably just black boots, double laces wrapped round, proper size shin pads. His socks are folded over correctly. He's your stereotypical English footballer, and he'll be fine to the end of the season. Pippa we know is amazing. So the fullbacks, I want cover. I do want cover, but Town want to be a top 30 club. That's in the charter. That's what we're after. And we're very, very close to being able to finish as a top 30 club. So that's what Huddersfield Town is. I suppose the question, like the overarching question that we're all skirting around is, what do we want what does the club want? What are our aims? What are we after? None of us want to, we don't care about Town making profit. Come on, guys. We don't care about that. Fans don't give two shits. We want to win as many games as possible, as finish as high up as we can in the table. I don't care about 2 years. I want to know now how high we can finish this season. And honestly, I think after Campbell, we have nothing. And I think you can upgrade Campbell. Sorry, Andy. I think you can find an upgrade there that creates a little bit more and sniffs out a few extra chances. I think we can have an upgrade at number 9. Danny Ward, we know, can do a job on the wing. And I'm not saying he's as good as a winger as he is as a striker. although he was better as a winger for us than he is currently as a striker for us. But with Koroma out, we need a winger as well. Hopefully Grant might be that guy. Maybe he is that guy. Maybe he comes in and clicks straight away. We can say we don't know what Rolando Aarons is going to bring into the team, right? But not one of us here thought there was a player in Isaac Mbenza. Not as a winger anyway. I thought he'd be decent as a striker. He was at Montpellier, I think it was before us. He played pretty central and scored a few goals there, but not one of us thought he could be the player he is today. He dictates so much play. He's great on free kicks. He just, from the player we saw last year, a bit like the mentor Diakabinic, which is probably the best comparison of a player I have ever heard. He just saps the strength out of you when he comes on. You feel depressed as soon as you're Diakabi's on, we're done. I like to call it the Mounier, the Potre effect. As soon as those two were on together, you just knew it were over. You might as well go home. But I don't think we're as far away from pushing on as some people think. We need the depth. Carlos is happy with it. Yeah, he says he's happy with the squad size, Nick. But there's a difference between squad size and squad depth. The depth isn't there. The size might be. We need to replace some of those players that should be in the B team, not in the first team. We need to find cover for them. And we are thread thin. Like you say, we're thread thin. There are no game changes. There are no game changes. Not for the better anyway. We don't really make subs and they come on and we play better after that. It just doesn't happen anymore. And that's what we need to rectify in January for me. And you can do that with a winger. You can do that with a striker. And yes, I understand they're expensive. But then we have a lot of people leaving in the summer as well. So you've got a 6-month commitment to paying somebody. And then you can back pay yourself, I suppose, effectively by getting rid of Mbenza in the summer. Because I would like to keep him. I would. And I cannot believe I am saying that. I'm sat here saying it. And if you'd have told me 6 months ago I'd be saying it, I'd have called you a liar. However, here I am being a hypocrite saying, I wish we could keep Mbenza, but he's going to be out of our league in what we can afford payment-wise because of the performances he's put in. He'll get some decent offers elsewhere. He won't be here, and I would get rid in January because I'd rather take a bit of money back because that's what I think Town will do. I wouldn't, actually. I'd keep him and eat the money and gamble and try and push up the league, but I don't think that's going to happen either. I just think we're 2 players away, a striker and a winger, from asking questions to the other teams in this division that I thought we were years away from. And here we are, cracking on to Christmas, and we're not just doing okay. We're moving up the table with some of the best home form in the division. It's fantastic, and if we can just find a few pounds, I'll just spend some money, Phil. Come on, man. We don't need. I'm not asking for much. Just money. There's more to life than money. So spend some on some strikers and wingers, and let's see how high we can go because we aren't far off. Carlos has got us singing. Let's just back him as much as we can. And see where this ride can go because the comparisons to Wagner are there, and I just don't want to sit back and regret it next year if Carlos isn't here.
Thing you canary. We've waffled on about this for too long, so we're getting to the hour mark. So I know it's a bumper Christmas edition and all that, but I just want to. There's a few questions that have come in. One from your lad, Gaz. Within reason, who is the one player you'd love us to sign in January? Who's first?
Do you want me to answer it since he's asked it?
Yeah, since he's asked it, go on, Gaz.
I don't know. What you should have done is lined us up before, Greg. You know, like they do on professional podcasts where they give you the questions up front so you can prepare and make notes.
This is where you come up with just a random name. This is where you come up with, for me, like I'll go first. Top of my head, I'll have Smith Rowe back on loan. That's the one player I think I'd like. There you go.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Fantasy players, lads. Any one player within reason.
I personally would like a young man by the name of Raul de Tomas because apparently, according to the Flash Scores app, he is the top scorer in the Spanish second division, and he also happens to play for People's Old Club Espanyol. So if we got lucky with a £500,000 signing the first time, why can't we do it again? And he wasn't in the squad. He wasn't in the squad, should I say, for the win against Llagostera. So I can only imagine we have already been tapping him up, and they're keeping him fresh on the bench so he can come in with a swoop on January the 4th. So as far as I'm concerned, done deal, lads. Bit of Spanish flair at the other end of the pitch as well. That's going to sort me right out. Bish bash bosh.
I've thought of one actually. Jordan Hugill, who's at Norwich, who isn't getting a kick. He's a young version of Campbell for me. He puts himself about. He's big, strong in the air. I think he'd have a bit of a different dimension. He wouldn't break the bank, I don't think. And he's not getting a look in at Norwich.
Pablo Hernandez from Leeds, dare I say. direct, fantastic forward for me. Obviously fits into Carlos' style. Chips in with goals, assists. For me, just the sort of player that would fit right into the team and what we need. That cutting edge.
Probably could go do like a coaching role, but like we have done like Dean Whitehead and that in the past. Come on, Ian. What scouting network have you got down under?
No, I'm just still good, man. I'm still living in the past. I can't get over us missing Kiefer Moore for a couple of million last summer. Like, if you're on about who'd fit our system better than anyone, Kiefer Moore would. He's a big lad, causes a bit of hassle. Our strikers play on their own a little bit. They've got to do a bit of the dirty work because the wingers seem to get the glory and get the goals in off what the striker does, and that's why Fraser Campbell, sponsored by Andy Kaye, doesn't necessarily get as many goals as he deserves for his play. Kiefer Moore for $2 million. We waited too long to start signing players this last summer. £2 million for him. He was class last year against us. And if anyone could improve this team, I know it's not realistic because what you're looking at now, 15, 20 million for him with how good he's been this year. We missed our opportunities with him last summer. And we can't have a full happy clappy podcast, so I'm just going to chuck that one in there just for the heavy bants, Greg.
Oh, that's fair enough. I think we've covered off the major ones. It's all about signings, unfortunately, but I just think that's actually a very good one because every single person, every single town fan's got a romantic vision of that one player that they like and always want to bring in. And again, I'd love to see SR back, but I think, like Ian says, we're only a couple of signings off being a completely different, more consistent team. And it has been an interesting 3 months. It's hard to believe that we're 3 months into the season and with so many games into the season. Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. We'll let you have your Christmas dinner if you're listening to this on Christmas Day. More full you. 20 games into a season. Huddersfield Town are 12th in the table, 8 wins, 28 points, 5 points off the playoffs. More importantly, 12 points off Derby County, who sit in 22nd. In the relegation zone, it has been an entirely different season than anyone really expected. We expected to be down there, and COVID has lasted longer than quite a few people expected. So hopefully 2021 will bring us more cheer, more laughs, more wins, more goals, and the ability to go to the pub. Gentlemen, Gareth, Kaye Camp Pub in Kilroy, Nick Barlow, thank you all so very much for your opinions, and to everyone else who's appeared on this podcast in 2020, thank you very much. Enjoy your Christmas, everyone. Unfortunately, it isn't what we all want it to be, but you know what? Fuck Boris Johnson. See you in a bit.